So we're going to bookmark this right here and we're going to start again. So, hello and welcome to another episode of the Molten Truth. This is your host, Zoey Michaels, and I am thrilled that we get to welcome back a guest that we had in the very early days of the Molten Truth, back around June or July in our first season. We had Doug Lawrence, who has written 3 books. And at that point in time, I think we were only aware of one of his books being a bestseller, but he has some news for us about his most recent book. Doug, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. I was so looking forward to us having a chat.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first time we talked, getting to know you a little bit about your background and how you came to become a writer. And then you have a company called Talent C.
Yeah, Talent C. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
it started. It kind of got its kickstart as a result of I was job coaching university or college students, and the relationships more kind of morphed themselves to something that was more mentoring related. And as a result of that, if I kept getting referrals to mentor people over and over. So it ended up where they suggested that, why don't you do this for a living? And so I did some research and stuff, and I ended up at that particular time point uh, partnering with an organization in the United States to create a certification process for mentors. And that's kind of, we're still moving forward with that. We're looking at how can we fit grief into that, so the grief mentor piece and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of been my sort of my journey.
how long has Talent C been around then? When did it get its start, if I can ask?
Yeah, you sure can. If and you just did that so you would test my memory. Um, 92, 1992.
So it's
Yeah,
been around for a little bit.
yeah,
I'm gonna guess maybe close to 20 years, give or take
yeah. It's
5 years.
yeah,
It's been a while. I know I graduated that year, and that's about where my memory ends. But I don't even care to think about the math. But that's quite a while. I mean, that's a
yeah.
testament to how successful you've been for that business to still be here or still be helping people that way. And
And it's sort of evolved. Like I'm doing some partnership type stuff where I'm working with organizations that are looking for mentors, volunteer mentors to help with. Like one that's really interesting is that I'm working with U.S. military personnel as they transition from service life to civilian life. And as part of the mentoring process, of course, we share a lot of stories, that different things that have happened, and I've found that to be very rewarding. Is that they've had some very traumatic stuff take place in their life, and they it takes a little bit of work to get them to sort of, as I call it, open up a bit to share, because that's the main thing for them to realize, is that you need to talk about what it is, because the only way we're going to continue on the healing journey is we need to have those conversations. And I'll do my best to have them in a safe place, but I that's a two-way street.
absolutely, and I don't think the average person really understands or realizes, maybe unless they've encountered it themselves, how important it is to verbalize what you're feeling in order to be able to process it and to heal from it. Um, I think I learned that myself dealing with my own grief journey, and I had, stumbled upon that because I had written my book and I had then been a guest on various podcasts, and I was super reluctant to even have the conversation, but it was about promoting the book. But the more I spoke with people on the podcasts, the more I healed. And then I learned more information that also helped me heal. And I feel like I got through it faster because of that. But I don't think the average person realizes. I certainly didn't realize that that was going to be the case with me. It was kind of a happy, I'm going to call it a happy accident in my case.
Because what I've found is that having the conversations, that's step number one. But actually, doing podcasts, I have found them to be extremely therapeutic because you get to tell that story over and over and over again. And people will ask you various questions and stuff like that, it kind of forces you to come out of that closet, as I call it, and ask for help. And once you're able to do that, then you can move ahead with the healing that needs to take place.
Exactly. I'll say that being on this side of the microphone is even better because then you get to speak with various experts like yourself and you learn more from them. And so that had even helped even more, just talking with various experts and learning little things I could do. And then, of course, my own personal research. But, uh, but yeah, it's an amazing thing. And it's wonderful that you have this mentoring situation and that you're teaching others so that they can then help others process that grief. And I know that with our original conversation, I mean, your backstory, you are definitely qualified to help people deal with grief because you dealt with so much of it yourself successfully. So,
Well, I won't argue, but there's always room for growth.
true.
There's, but you're true, but you're absolutely correct is that I went through some traumatic stuff in the police force, and that gave me the post traumatic stress kind of baggage that I had to deal with. And then, of course, as you well know, losing my wife to cancer was probably and still is one of my biggest lifelong challenges. And I didn't think it was going to be that difficult, but it's difficult. That's probably the best way to describe it is that you, every day you wake up and you're thankful that you woke up and can put both feet on the floor. But then there's all this other stuff around you that, you know, different. I had a friend that called me here just earlier this week, I guess it was, and a family member had passed away, and they're you could tell they were reaching. They weren't sure if they should ask or if they should what they should do, and there's just so much of that going on that every time you turn around, somebody has passed away, and you can just see the pain and suffering in their eyes that they're trying to say, I hope there's a shortcut I can take. And you having the experience, you know that that's not the case.
Exactly. And I think there's variations on the levels of trauma. It's traumatic to lose anyone in any way, shape, or form. That's just a fact. Even though death is happens every day, I don't think I would ever characterize it as normal. It's not something that you I just don't think it's something that should be considered normal. That's just personal opinion. But it happens. It does happen every day. But we're not really equipped to deal with that, and we all have our various beliefs and so on and so forth. And this is not what this program's about, and I'm not going to go that direction ever. But, but it's traumatic to lose a family member, even if you're not there when it happens. It's traumatic to lose, even worse traumatic when they die in your arms. Um, I recently, in my day job, I deal with a lot of sick people in various situations. And I had a lady, and I felt so bad for her because she literally was so traumatized because her husband did die in her arms. I think she gave him like CPR. She did everything a person could do to try to, but it was unexpected and horribly traumatic for her. And I hope it. I was able to help her in some capacity. The truth is, I'll probably never know, but
True.
I
Yeah.
hope, and I hope that she did find some kind of counseling or something out there to help her to process that from whatever source. Um, and I forget why we went down that road. That's just me being me. But you look like you've got a thought.
Yeah. Well, I went through that where um, being the stubborn male, letting my ego take control of everything. I was more, well, I'm just going to have to deal with this, and it took me a long time to sort of number one recognize the fact that I did need help, and then number two was where am I going to get that help from? Because a lot of the people that I knew, I just didn't see them being able to have the capacity to actually help. And I ended up seeing a counselor, more, I guess she would be a counselor, social worker. And like I dealt with stuff, and it seems kind of foolish now, but I couldn't drive past the hospital where Deborah passed away because it brought back, you know, brought back those memories. And it took a while for us to try, try some different types of therapies and stuff like that to be able to get us to a stage where I could actually drive past the hospital and not break down and cry.
Absolutely, and I get that. I 100% get that. Um, I am religious, and my mom, I swear, she traumatized me so bad with my dad's death, the way she handled things. But I apologize. We have a visitor from one of the cats. So for our entertainment, this is Orlando. Hello, Orlando. Hello, world.
Hello.
And you can go and not disturb our broadcast here. So if anyone has any doubts about how real this is, case in point.
There you
Hello,
go. Yeah.
Orlando. Anyway, what I was saying is that, like you, my grief became very strongly associated with a building for a while. In the place where was our place of worship, I could not be in that space without breaking down every single time. It was for a year or two. It affected me that badly, and I never spoke about it. I don't know that anyone truly knew or understood, including my family. My husband might have understood, but that aside, it took me a very long time before I could be in that space um, without hello Orlando, without having that reaction. He's our
Yeah.
comic relief tonight, and all this grief we needed a little
That's good.
comedy, so we
Yeah.
got our comic relief there. But yes, yeah, it's amazing how our minds and even our bodies, because I muscle memory,
Yeah.
um, are affected by that.
And I don't want to take us down the spiritual path, but um, I I end up with a lot of exposure to that space, and it's just continued. Like I had one here the last couple nights that was it was pretty interesting. Like it was very, how you see sometimes you see those pictures of a spiritual figurine, we'll call it,
Hmm.
in the white and just with a glowing dark or not glowing dark, glowing light and white light and that. Yeah, well, I experienced that this past week. And I but I don't know The only thing I can think of was I had not done my prayer routine because I do a prayer routine every night. I hadn't done it, and I think this was a friendly reminder to smarten up and get back on the train and deal with it. Oh, here we go.
I'm pushing him behind the computer this
Oh,
time. He just does not like this topic. He's just insisting on being the comic relief tonight.
yeah, that's good.
So, since we've segued a little bit, we'll come back to our topic, but I'm very curious about this picture that's behind your head. I can only see about half of it from the arms on down, but what is this picture behind you?
So it is a elder. It's an elder in a Inuit community,
Oh, okay.
and the elder is hunting for seal. So I think I'll just turn person.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah,
all I can see are like the arms and like looks like rope, and that's
well,
about all
yeah,
I can tell.
because what it is he has the spear that they use when they go hunting for seal, and we actually are Deborah had saved this picture and ended up getting it framed and all that while she was still living.
Yeah,
And that was sort of a, she said, you probably completely forgot about it, but here is something that, a memory of your time in the North. Because we, got to experience all kinds of different things just, through some of the places that we were stationed or where we were posted. And so there was all kinds of different, things like this that you would get to see in real life, not just a picture, but in real life. And so, yeah, that's kind of the story behind the story on that.
well, that's pretty amazing. Now you're up in Canada. I believe that's true, right?
That's
Yeah.
true.
Okay. Um, and so, were you guys in the Canadian Rockies, or were you someplace else when you were going with that?
So that would have been in the far north. So the Northwest Territories, and some of it is now called none of it. So they broke it off into two separate territories and stuff like that. So we were in the last place in that we got posted in the north was Hull Beach, and that was in the eastern Arctic. And we were there. I was the only police officer and my closest backup if I ever needed any help was 30 minutes by airplane. So you learned how to communicate because they all spoke Inuktitut and didn't speak English at all. So I had to I had to do lots of different signs and all kinds of things to get them to understand what I was trying to say or do, and it was a very unique experience.
Bad. I bet that was challenging because you were a Mountie, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I thought so. I'm just going mostly off of memory, aside from my very messy notes from 6 or 8 months ago. But yes, I was thinking that was right. Now, it's how long has it been since you lost your wife?
2021,
Okay, so it's been about 4 or 5, I guess 5 years
five,
now, right? Because
coming up 5, yeah, February 6th.
okay, yeah, so you lost her about a month after I lost my mom, because I lost my mom almost exactly 5 years ago, New Year's Day. So that we were just talking about that with my I have a pretty big family. I have there's 5 of us kids. So I was talking with my sister and my brother that I'm closest to about that recently, about how we made that 5 year anniversary. I mean, you still remember it, because family is family, whether it's wife or mom or dad or whoever. I mean, we always think about them. They were huge parts of our lives. It's only natural. But have you are you still unmarried, or did you end up remarrying?
No, I'm still single.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and who's to say about the future, right? Some people they never remarry, and others eventually the heart heals enough that maybe that's something they pursue, and every person makes their own decision. But I was just call it curiosity there. Um, but
No,
yeah,
it's I want to get remarried, um, but it's just going to be when it's the right time. I think more than anything else, and the right person, obviously. So
very definitely they have big shoes to fill because Deborah
yeah,
was there with you side by side with everything you guys went through with your work and the grief and that one young man that you lost. He
yeah,
was so pivotal.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he a volunteer at the Mounties, or what was
No, the connection was we were in a small, or I at that time point, I guess we both were sort of. The connection was that we had a men's hockey team that was going to, yeah, so it was going to go down the highway and play the neighboring community. And he's just a young lad at 16 years of age, made the team, went home to tell his parents how excited he was that he'd been selected, thinking that they would reciprocate, only to find out that they had been drinking all afternoon and were drunk beyond recognition. So, and he was so distraught by that that he ended up going into the bedroom or one of the rooms where they kept the firearms, and he took a firearm and took his own life, death by suicide. So, and then I had to transport his his remains, his body, to the closest morgue, which was 8 hours minus 40 gravel roads. The whole, if you could paint a picture of, like, if you could paint a picture where you could say, gee, I hope that never happens to anyone else, that was the kind of scenario. And it was also, Deborah had come up to that particular location um, to spend some time with her relatives. And then she ends up getting work, and then she ends up getting sort of the tap on the shoulder to go with me to make the trip out. No one else wanted to, so it was kind of, oh, too bad you got the short straw.
but I think she wanted to, right? I feel like when
Yeah,
you and I spoke back like last time that she did it voluntarily, and I feel like you mentioned that trip drew you guys closer together.
it did. It really did. It gave her a chance to see what her future, because at that stage, I think I had proposed already, and so then she went with me, and I think at that stage it gave her the chance to sort of see what the life of a wife was going to be like. If we continued with working in the RCMP and stuff like that, this is what it was going to be like, and sort of to be able to understand that I needed somebody, I needed that support person, that because my coping mechanisms were such that I still, even though I had her support, I came home from that trip, or we came home from that trip, and I went to my trailer that I lived in and took the cap off the scotch bottle, and I tried to drink myself to a place where things were better, and that was furthest from the truth.
Now, was that the first traumatic incident you had experienced in your life?
No, no, there was. significant others. It was the first one with Deborah playing a part or a role. Yeah.
And then she obviously was part of Talent C. At least she was there beside you as things got going. Did she work with you guys in that there, or was she just a good support at home?
Both actually, because with the Talent C stuff, I was teaching or training met people to be mentors and going through that, and she got to because there was different trips that we went on. I remember we went to Winnipeg one time, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and she helped facilitate the course that I was teaching, and that was the time frame when she got asked a question by one of the participants about, you know, what was the sort of impact that all of this stuff had on you as an individual, and she said he doesn't realize how close he came to losing the three of us.
That's right. And so that brings me to your children. Are they there in locally for you, or
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
And are they involved in Talent C, or did they go on their own paths?
No, they went on their own path. Um, my son is a technician, an automotive technician for one of the car dealerships, and my daughter, God bless her, she helps me every time she gets a chance to, because it's I live in close proximity to where she lives, so but she she's I don't want to call her a stay-at-home mom. That's probably one of the smaller elements of her life.
Sure.
She's actively involved in a number of things, providing support for the two grandchildren and doing a number of other things in the community that I never thought that she would go down that path, but she has. So, and God bless her. The world's a lot better place with her doing what she's doing.
I would agree with that. You know, these days I would say the idea of being a stay-at-home mom is more of a privilege than otherwise. I think I don't know if there's a poll out there, but if I was going to be polled, I'd be like, sign me up. I would rather be in that capacity than anything else. For a while, I did have that privilege of being a stay-at-home wife, and I got to do a lot of projects and do things, and I felt very happy with my life with that. But life takes unexpected turns, and we roll with them. So
That we do.
what else can you do? But so um, what do your children think of what you do and about your books? Have they weighed in on any of that?
They haven't, other than like the book awards to sort of say congratulations, well done and all that sort of stuff. But they haven't had the time to dive into sort of the content and the idea behind that. Um, and that doesn't surprise me because when I think when Deborah passed, um, I was very mindful and was watching to sort of see how they responded and reacted to the loss of their mother. And it, I think it's you have expectation is too strong of a word, but you have a sense of of what you would think you would do or you would respond in your particular situation, and it's not close to how they went about their grieving and continue to grieve. um, it's just I'm more open and outgoing when it comes to that, and they're maybe not quite so.
Yeah, more private.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. Different temperaments, different styles, different ways of doing things. Completely get that.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit. So we've mentioned that you have three books. What are the titles of your three books?
The first one was The Gift of Mentoring. So basically, Mentoring 101 is the best way to describe it. The second one was You Are Not Alone. That one ended up being an Amazon #1 bestseller. And it focused on mentoring and post traumatic stress because I ended up, because of my time in the police force, I ended up with post traumatic stress. And I obviously wrote to provide people some tools that they needed to do so. And then finally, the third book is Grief, the Silent Pandemic. And that one is a 5 time Global Book Award recipient. And it's all about grief. And I share some personal stories, and in as a result of, if you go through and you read the book, there are personal stories about my life in general, and some of the, dealing with things uh, after Deborah has gone and moved on. She's passed away, and so then what? It's, and I ask myself that question quite often: is all of this has happened, now what?
Absolutely. Well, it sounds wonderful. So for those who don't know, five awards for one book. Do you want to expand on that?
uh, you know Normally, you see individuals, they get one award for a book. I ended up being blessed where I ended up with five global book awards for one book. So part of what it tells me, and is that the research that we did to write this book, and all the components and the pieces to make it so, we were on the right track. We are on the right track. And all we can, all I hope that I'm able to do at this particular stage now is to, #1, make the world a better place, and #2, to help those who need help, no matter where they are, but to be able to help them to continue their healing journey and make the most of that.
That's really great. I have to say, personally, I wasn't aware there were five separate awards out there for global, so that was kind of news to me. I figured one award, that's great, global bestseller, woohoo. So
Yeah.
I was curious to learn about that.
Well, and it was sort of something that, I talked with my publicist and I said, is this significant? And he reassured me that it was. I wouldn't be speaking to you if it wasn't. So, it's it 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 gives me a good feeling to be able to tell that piece. To be able to say, oh yeah, this book is, 5 time Global Book Award recipient,
Right.
and
Well, I mean, it does. It speaks volumes.
yeah,
One award out of five, even though one award is pretty wow. To know you got five out of five, I can see why that would be
yeah,
significant. Though I would say the average person didn't even know there were five awards out there to get.
yeah,
So that's why I wanted to expand a little bit about that. Just like, well, there's more out there than we thought.
yeah, because they do for all the different genres. They actually have awards for, a lot of those. But at the end of the day, it's still the aspect of five awards, one book.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So as we get ready to come toward the end of our session here, I since you were last the guest, added a section ask your random question, and then I'll go back and I'll grab that.
So my question would be, if you could change anything in the world today, what would it be and why?
Okay, that is a really excellent question. There's so much for people to do with that to figure out. There's so many things to choose that you people might want to change. I don't like that question. Let me do ha 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 ha. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. And that would be my dog that I adopted about a month ago when my dog before him died. Let's see. Okay, I like this question. What is something you have changed your mind about?
My goodness. If I, on a personal note, it would be that I, I want, on a personal note, I want to be able to, from a relationship perspective, get back on track to allotting or allocating time for re, rekindling the relationships that I had kind of pre Deborah and then post as well, so that I kind of get a blend of both.
Okay. I think that's a really nice response to that. So that's something you've changed your mind about. Well, really excellent. So we typically aim for about 45 minutes, give or take. So as before we wrap this up, do you have any specific last thoughts you would like to share with our audience?
You know, the big thing is that if you happen to be an individual who is struggling and trying to uh, heal from whatever it may be, that you just need to know that you need to come out of the closet as I describe it, and you need to ask for help, and that there will always be somebody there to help you on your to help help you continue your healing journey. Because if you think of it from the aspect, well, I'm kind of like suck it up, buttercup, and deal with it yourself, that doesn't always work well, and it certainly doesn't for what we've been talking about. So I think that to be able to reach out and ask for help is pretty significant. And if you're struggling with understanding grief and all of that, you can also acquire a copy of Grief: The Silent Pandemic, and there will be answers to your questions inside that book.
Absolutely. I think that's really great advice. I might even tag on and say, don't cut yourself short as far as where you seek help. If you don't get help at one door, you will definitely get it at another door, and it may come from the most unexpected of places. So just keep reaching out. The help is there. So I would like to throw that in there.
I agree.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed having you again. It's good talking to you. I'm really excited about your news. I mean, last time we spoke, it was just that one book that was on the bestseller list. So that was really big news about this most recent book. So I'm glad you came.
So am I.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get to talk again with book number 4, or who knows what's around the corner for you.
Hard to say.
Um, I'm sure Mickey will send you my way if
Yeah,
when the
oh yeah,
time's right.
that he will.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hang on after the recording. I have some housekeeping stuff to do with you, but we're going to close it out. If you enjoyed our broadcast, please tell other people. Please, share it on Facebook or other social media. Hit like on the broadcast, and be sure to check out Doug. His books are on Amazon and other publishing sites, and his website is talentc.ca. Is that right?
That's correct. Very good.
Okay. Yeah. I've had to pound into my head that Canada is CA instead of .com, as we have it here in the States. So I'm getting there. All
If we
right.
if we talk a couple more times, then we'll have you right where you need to be.
Sounds like a deal. All right. Here we go.
Take care.
Okay.